valuable seconds on the clock. And we know with white that is not great right now. And okay, we're off. It's the Reti switching things up. No more main lines, no more craziness. And it's B3. Praggnanandhaa just avoiding all theory and taking his jacket off as well, Peter. Is this mind games or is this just trying to get in the zone for Pragg?
Well, we don't know. It's but basically the approach is let's just play chess. Let's forget about craziness. I want to be strategic. Whatever craziness was happening, it worked in Arjun's favor. I like his approach. It's a slow approach, not playing for an advantage, but just making sure that he can play sound moves.
Yep, and there we go. Some very quick, very natural moves. It basically looks like a London system just with reversed colors. And that's the one downside maybe with the Reti, that you allow these types of innocuous positions, but it's very much about understanding now. And I like the position that Pragg has, very flexible, and who will understand, who will maneuver this position better? That's the big question. Still with 30 seconds down on the clock, it's not necessarily a good start for Pragg. He just needs to get through this game. I think a draw here would prolong the tension. And of course, with white at this point, any draw might feel like a win. So we see a trade of knights, and he'll step forward in the center very shortly with his pawns.
Yeah, knight takes d7. It's kind of a typical idea, opening up that bishop. The big question, is he going to go for the c4 setup? You are a big maestro of this. What would be your suggestion?
Yeah, I tend to favor playing with c4 rather than e4. Just because it's not actually clear you ever want to step forward on the king side, and that tension is almost unbearable. But I really like what Arjun's doing here, gaining as much space as possible while white is indecisive. And okay, finally tension in the center. Yeah, I tend to favor these positions with an extra set of knights on the board, just because it gives you a few extra plans as white. But matter of taste, of course. Pragg has a very healthy position, and yeah, it's all about the bishops. Black's bishop on h7 a bit stuck, even though it's on a lengthy diagonal, whereas white's bishop's on the long diagonal. Looking very nice, but Arjun first to break up the structure, and white's queenside falling apart. He needs to compensate with dynamism here.
Yeah, knight e5 played, queen c7. The a4 move was a pawn sacrifice, aiming to destroy the pawn structure. Typical Arjun, immediately creating some practical problems.
Yeah, he's always asking questions. I think that's why I've struggled against him traditionally. Just every move, it's the most ambitious, it's the most testing. And okay, first he's the one to answer a question. Do you think he's going to recapture this pawn on d5 with his knight, with his pawn?
Tough call, very tough call. Intuitively one would like to capture with the knight, I believe, but maybe capturing with the pawn is better, yes. And he captures with the pawn. Pragg grabs that pawn on a4. Now it's a very loose structure. White has a weak pawn on a4, but also black's d5 pawn is not safe. The bishop on g2 is eyeing that. Queen a5 played. Queen b3.
Yeah, Pragg hits that pawn on d5, as you mentioned there, Peter. He's definitely sped up. Now the time difference is only a few seconds. It's now level on the clock, actually. Will the curse of the white pieces finally be broken? That's the big question. He's asking some questions, hitting b7, hitting d5. Maybe Arjun missed this last move. It's very annoying, this double hit on the pawns.
Yeah, the pressure is hitting on. I just would like to very quickly say that what a good news that it's not an Armageddon. I mean, it's so nice that with an increment we will get a winner, because otherwise it would be very bitter.
Yeah, I was discussing in Baku with Magnus whether, if Armageddon still existed, whether you could draw your way to becoming world champion. You could literally draw every game in the World Cup, win by Armageddon, draw every game in the candidates, hope the tiebreaks come to your favor. But yeah, it's nice to see this decided with a decisive result potentially. But now Pragg, he's won a pawn. It's come at the cost of the bishop pair, Peter. Any compensation here for black?
Well, if black's bishop would be on e6, yes, but that bishop on h7 is out of the game. I feel like white has perfect grip on the position. And the good news is within 3+2 seconds game that we won't be seeing flying pieces, because that's the horror of any kind of Armageddon. It's a great news that we have this, and Pragg has things under control.
He does, and okay, a retreat with his queen. I think it's not just the fact that he's got an extra pawn here, but it's just the fact he has stability. Black has no pawn breaks. This black bishop on h7, normally with the bishop pair you say compensation, but this bishop on h7 is staring at a wall of pawns, and Pragg's just going to retreat. He's forcing off one set, There we go. That's an exchange. And Black's remaining pawns are pretty weak on c5 and b7. Feels like Arjun's a bit in panic mode here, down on the clock. And those mind games at the beginning, it feels like they've worked perfectly in White's favor. Queen to e6 here, hitting a pawn. He's stable, Peter. Extra pawn here for Pragg.
Yes, just defend this. The pawn on e2 is the soul of White's position. That's why we talk about a very stable construction. Pragg goes for knight e3. That's a surprise. Removing that fantastic knight from c4.
Yeah.
And apparently it allows Black to play the stunning c5, c4 and somehow opens up the bishop. Will Arjun play it? No, he misses this opportunity.
If Arjun were in a must-win situation, as he has previously been, I think he would have played that c4 move, just throwing away pawns, trying to get his bishop back to life. But now he's allowed Pragg to re-establish control. And look at that. Pragg was aware of Black's plan. He has prevented that with his rooks right now. And, okay, getting his queen back active. Still all to play for. Arjun just needs to get through this game. Remember, a loss for anyone now, and they will be out of the World Cup. Okay, 5 played. He's going to gang up on this white a-pawn.
Yes, but White can just probably sidestep with rook a, b1 and target the b6 pawn himself.
Oof. Peter, who do you think's been the more impressive? Who would you favor if it does get down to that scramble of just a few seconds each? Because we're getting to that phase.
Both equally impressive. But, okay, we know the nerves. Who will keep the better nerves? That's the big question now.
Yeah, I think it's pure nerves. On position, White has the advantage, but anything can happen. It's 20 seconds against 15 seconds, only a 2-second increment. It's not online where you can pre-move. It's literally to the death. And, okay, Arjun keeping an eye on White's pawns. Offering a trade now, Pragg. He's giving up his a-pawn for Black's b-pawn. White's knight holding everything together.
Yes, rook takes a4 can be met by rook takes b6.
Strong. Instead of queen trade, we're under the 10-second mark for Erigaisi. Oh, you can see the nerves changing his mind with seconds to spare. King h7. White has an extra pawn. It's 5 versus 4.
Yes, because rook b8 was a big problem. He did not want to trade that rook.
Where's the counterplay? Black's pawns all separated, especially the c5 pawn scattered. White's defending, controlling everything. Oh, 2 seconds, 1 second for Erigaisi. And Pragg got excited there. You can see him looking at the clock. He's ticking down now. He made it with 1 second as well. And a trade of knight to bishop.
Even with the 2 seconds increment, we see flying pieces.
Yeah, I think we'll see more pieces fly, but White's king is coming. White is winning this endgame. White's rooks are about to land on the 7th rank. Okay, this is a scramble on the clock. A second pawn falls. Erigaisi has a hopeless position, but he's got time on the clock. That's his one saving grace right now. All bets are off. Making moves with 1 second, 2 second every single turn. Black's rook almost trapped. How does Pragg finish this off? Do you think the clock will play a factor here? Oof. Barely pause for breath.
Yeah, if White can accumulate some time, then it's completely winning. But Arjun is keeping on blitzing, not allowing Pragg to think.
And e6 by Pragg there. Has Pragg let it slip? He thought he was checkmating maybe, but then panicking. He's given up some of his advantage, but he's still going to stay with a 2-pawn edge here. And Erigaisi needs to find a miracle. Offers a rook trade. And there we go. Pragg ganging up on the e6 pawn.
Yes. Now back on track.
It's almost guaranteed at this point. White has 2 extra pawns connected. Black's king is cut off. White's moves are automatic. He's going to gain time on the clock. He's going to win. Arjun is in a hopeless situation here. If this were online, you would pre-move to the end now. White's about to make a new queen. And Arjun offers his hand. After all of that, Praggnanandhaa is the one to win and will advance to the semi-finals.
Wow, incredible. What a drama. And we have